Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Pam with Perfectly Holistic, and we are so excited. And I know Jay and Adrian are here too, and they're like screaming in our chat, which is great. I love you guys so much. I am so excited. This is like a dream come true to partner with a like-minded individual who is an amazing integrative holistic vet, Dr. Barrie Sands, a fan of energy and all things energy and healing and wellness. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that we're sharing this space and this time to talk about such an amazing topic.
And it's so important right now in these days. But for those people who don't know who you are, why don't you share just a little bit of your story and background and why you do the amazing work that you do?
Okay, well, here's the quick and dirty, I guess, is I have been a conventional veterinarian for the last 32 years. I've worked in the emergency critical care venue or service for the last about 28, 29 years. I've had my integrative holistic practice for the last 21 years.
Wow.
I have become a certified trainer for the HeartMath Institute, teaching resilience building and mind-body coherence and brain-heart harmony for the last 8 years. And recently, I became certified as a master practitioner in shamanic energy medicine. I'm bridging all the gaps between science and mysticism to really embrace full body wellness, mind, body, spirit, total wellness for my pets and their humans, and that's why we're here today. It's so happy.
So amazing. And when we were first talking about this topic, we both agreed that this is an aspect of the pet industry and pet wellness and the veterinary side that doesn't get addressed that much, or it's overlooked, or it's minimized in its importance. So we just want to start to bring awareness. And for those of you who are wondering, this is the first show of many shows. So we are going to be coming back and doing a lot more discussion and teaching and helping you guys learn more about yourselves and more about energy and how it's impacting you and how it's impacting your pets and what you can do to better all of those things with just simple awareness and some, when you learn more, you can do more with that. So so this is going to be kind of a really neat introduction to this whole very big, vast, deep topic. So we are going to start with let's talk about what is energy, Dr. Sands.
Yeah, well, this is a very off the cuff, non-scripted conversation, and I don't know where it's going to go, but hopefully it's going to go to places that are really impactful, because that's my goal here, to make the information here presented valuable and useful to people. And when we think about energy, it has such this stigma of this woo-woo-ness, that because it's so intangible and it flows and it moves and it changes and you can't hold on to it, you can't see it, that people really don't understand the value of the mechanisms that are actually taking place. And one of the things I wanted to bring to light is the idea that we live in an energetic world. We live in a sea of particles, in this sort of field, this matrix that is around us, and it's constantly informing us of vibrations and frequencies and information that our body is recognizing. And when I say that, when we learn about biology, it's in school we learn about things like biochemistry and physiology, and then we learn about pharmaceuticals and pills which work on a biochemical level, because we're dealing with our matter, and we deal with the biochemistry of our body, and we try to alter it with biochemistry. But what we don't really emphasize, especially in our training, is the physics around that, and the when you talk about energy and mm, molecules and atoms that we are all made of, we are just a, full of quadrillion moving particles, right? Atoms and
Mhm.
particles at our core. So that's what makes us energetic. And we have at our core a proton and an electron, and they all move. And so, the big question that I come back to is, well, what makes the electron move? Because it never stops moving.
Mhm.
And so it's energy. So energy drives physics, physics drives biochemistry, biochemistry drives biology, and then that what makes us who we
Mhm.
are. And so if we just took a leap from the energy to the biology, then that could create healing in mechanisms that we're not even recognizing yet.
Right.
And it's quick, and it can be very quick, because now you're interfacing energy with energy instead of having to go through the slow, materialistic aspect of biochemistry.
Yes.
And so I don't know if that really
No,
makes
that's so on point because you can use energy to change energy instead of trying to be matter changing matter, and it just works
sense.
so faster, you know? You remove all the speed bumps. So I don't know why that word just popped into my head, but it works faster.
Yeah,
You
it
don't
does
have
work
nothing to
faster,
do
and
it.
we learn about techniques and the
Mhm.
technology, around that, and that's what we're going to dive into, and eventually, I think in some of our episodes is,
Yeah.
how can we do all this, you know?
Yes. Yes. So what some of the principles or one of the most popular principles of energy that people have probably heard of before is that it cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be changed because it's already ever present in like you said, this sea around us that we can't see, but it's what they call the quantum field, right? It's a field that encompasses every single area, aspects in us, around us. We're surrounded by it. If you took out, you know, all the people, all of matter, you would, all the earth, the light, if you took out everything, you would just be left with this black, vast void. And that's where all of supreme consciousness of all time lives. All the information that's ever needed, that we've ever wanted, that we didn't even know we knew or needed, it's all there. It's all available in this field all around us. So we just
Yes,
have to learn how to access it, right? And
right, right. How to
to
tap
tap
into that.
into it.
Yeah, it comes by different names. It could be called the field, or the matrix, or the
Mm-hmm,
quantum field.
mm-hmm.
But it is a real it's a real thing. It's not a vacuum in space.
Right.
There were so many studies that have been done to show, like, okay, well, let's create a vacuum, um, and see, where there's no light, no air, no nothing, and in the quantum scientists like Max Planck, when he did his black box radiation experiment, you know, years ago in the 1920s, it was like, well, we expected not to see anything in this vacuum, but what they found was this field of particles that were just streaming in and out and in and out. And then they dove a little deeper and say, okay, well, if they're going in and out, but where are they going in and out from? There's this like places, I'm existing, I'm not existing, I'm existing, I'm not. So it gets really wonky, when you talk about quantum physics. But I think the
Mm-hmm,
take home point is that it exists. And
mm-hmm,
in this field of energy is where we can get our source energy from. It's
mm-hmm.
the same place where you get those ideas that pop into your head out of nowhere,
Yes.
those aha moments. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, where did that thought come from? Well, it came from that field,
Yeah.
that collective consciousness. And most of the time when you have this aha moment of something magical and amazing, someone else has the same thought, and it could be across the world,
Yep.
but it's happening. And so, how do we bring that home, and how do we have an understanding of how we can change our physiology, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how can we create the wellness that we all want to have? And I guess maybe that's a big statement. Maybe not everybody wants to be well. You
That's
know,
true.
it's a choice. Health is
Mm-hmm.
it's a journey. And there was a saying I heard the other day, listening to some holistic practitioners, and they said, in order to be healthy, in order to become healthy, you need to be healthy.
Mm.
And I was like, huh, yeah, I guess so. Like, your mindset has to already be thinking that that's what you want to do. And then you can become that,
Yeah.
So it's a process. And
Yeah.
it's,
Mm-hmm. It
this is,
is a process for sure.
yeah,
Because a lot of times we may decide, or we may think the thought, I really want to be healthy. I need to start eating better. I need to get more sleep. I need to stop doing XYZ. But if that desire is not matching with that, if your desire or your want is not on the same frequency as whatever that is that you think you want, it's going to take, it's not an easy like overnight switch. Oh, I'm going to be healthy tomorrow. It takes effort. It takes focus. It takes discipline. It takes that overpowering will and desire to raise that vibration so you are on that same level. And that's kind of
yeah,
the way we have to approach everything we want, whether it's health or love or career or whatever it is that we want. It's so fascinating. um can you talk a little bit more about, let's share some examples of what frequencies can affect, what they are, and like how they affect people and pets?
so a frequency is, basically an oscillation and a vibration, right? Every molecule, every atom, every substance has a certain vibration that it moves at, which is a
Hmm.
certain frequency. And when you are in resonance with something, it
Hmm.
means that you are at the same frequency and you're moving with it.
Yes.
And when you're in a dissonance, it means you're in some opposite, chaotic, distorted frequency, and you're not interfacing well, and you're not jiving, right? And
Yes.
so when we talk about health and disease, dis-ease is when there's a disharmony and a dysresonance, with maybe the frequencies and the vibrations in your own body that
Hmm.
are being affected by your thoughts and your emotions, right? Because they have frequencies.
Yes.
And so,
And even ideas and limiting beliefs, they have their own frequencies too, and those can also affect us physically, emotionally,
yeah,
spiritually.
yeah. When you think about resonance, you think about the glass and the opera singer, who,
Yes.
right, who makes a sound out of her voice that the glass starts to vibrate, and then it shatters,
Yes.
right? And it shatters because it's the same frequency. And the same frequency together, when two waves meet each other that are the same frequency, they create an amplification. They add, like, it's 1 and 1 plus is 2, right? So there gets this huge amplification of the frequency. And that is where the healing can happen, when um, when you're in resonance and with a huge amplification. I don't
Mhm.
know if that can make sense out of context, but um, it's like uh, it's like when you have an intention around something that is so strong with your mind, and you create that feeling of what it looks like to have that happen. There's this big amplification that and it's so strong. It's such a strong, powerful force
Yes.
that that's when the healing, and what I like to call the magic, that's where the magic happens. In
Yes.
those moments, where your intentionality is so strong, matched with that emotion of it already happening. you know.
Yes. Yes, I think and I'm sure you've heard of the Masuro Emoto water experiments. How
Yeah.
they talk about how the energy affected the water crystals. Do you want to share a little bit about for the viewers if they haven't heard of that experiment? You guys need to go look it up on, YouTube or
Oh yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Well, Dr. Emoto, he did a lot of. He's not alive anymore, but he recently died. But he did experiments on water crystals and putting in language like "I love you,"
Mhm.
"You're beautiful," um, and versus feelings of "I hate you," "You're ugly," and then
Mhm.
they took pictures of it, and there were the "I love you," "You're beautiful" water molecules with these beautiful, it's like snowflake like crystals,
Yeah.
and the "I hate you" ones were like all distorted and yucky. And he even took an experiment where he took from a polluted water source and took a picture of it, and it was all disgusting and gnarled looking. And then a group of people put blessings of love and healing into the water, and it changed. It actually changed. And the significance of his work, I think, comes from where we, into our own bodies, we're at least 70% water,
Mhm.
by mass, and we're actually about 99% water by molecules. So if we are just in that concept alone, if we're all water and your thoughts can make you crystalline or smudgy,
Yes.
then you might as well infuse that sense of love and gratitude and care and
Mhm.
appreciation. And those are the exact emotions and feelings that bring our bodies into a state of coherence,
Yes.
which is how you can heal yourself and how you can emulate that frequency onto your pets and the people around you.
Mhm. No, it's a fascinating topic. And it makes me think of like back before we didn't know any better, knowing that our bodies and our cells are 70% plus water, what what we're surrounded by, what we're putting into us, the way we talk to ourselves, all of those, if they're negative emotions, they're creating disresonance in our body, they're creating dis-ease, they're creating um, disharmony,
Yeah.
versus the opposite. If we were doing all the opposite things and saying, surrounding ourselves with positive environments, self care, being mindful of how we speak to ourselves and how others speak to us and what we're allowing into our field, you know, that can bring up vibration, which makes the body very healthy and balanced and in harmony.
Yeah.
So it's so easy to forget that because just like the Masuro Emoto water experiments, your body is an experiment every day, and you're being affected every day on some level, whether you know it or not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Adrian says over here, water also cannot be created or destroyed, right? I'll let
Yeah, maybe. It's a big cycle, right?
it changes forms. Yeah.
It does change form, and in so many forms. It's not even there's 5 forms of water that people don't even know about. We think, I learned in school that there's only 3 phases, right? There's solid,
Mhm.
which is ice, then there's a liquid, and then there's a gas. But there's 2 other phases that we don't talk about, and the fourth one is plasma,
Mm.
and then the fifth one, which I'm not going to get into, but it's called the Bose-Einstein condensate, and it's just this amazing structural aspect of water where it actually becomes so coherent that you can implement immediate changes into your physiology in with your intention during that state. And we'll talk about that at some other time. But it's, I think sometimes it's just important to know that it's possible,
Mhm.
right? If it's
Mhm.
possible, then it's it could be probable,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know.
Well, and when we dive into the power of the quantum field, or that collective consciousness that surrounds us, and I mean, anything is possible. It's limitless, right? It's already there. We just have to go decide we want it, tap into it. We can create from that field. We can be inspired from that field. It's fascinating. It's
Yeah,
already there. We just have to become aware, I think.
right,
Right?
right. I mean, the theories are kind of complex, but the application is quite simple.
Yeah.
And I think the solution to many things is always the same solution. It's like you were alluding to before, it's going outside and taking a walk in nature. It's
Mhm.
taking a moment to breathe, right, and be mindful of your breath. It's staying hydrated, because
Mhm.
water is a conduit of energy flow. So the
Yeah.
more hydrated you are, the better your body's going to be. And getting sunshine and that vitamin D on your body, um, and just thinking, positive thoughts and feeling positive emotions,
Mhm.
like that's, and eating obviously good foods, right?
Right.
And sometimes that doesn't even matter. Sometimes you can have a day where you're just eating all sorts of bad stuff, but it makes you feel good. Right?
For the moment. And then the next day you don't feel so good. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, it feels so sluggish because you just really overdid, or whatever. But it's a new day. You can start
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
And it's just always, having gratitude around that, and
Mhm.
putting blessings into the food, because not everybody can,
Yeah.
you know, can, like, I have some clients who can only afford kibble, and they ask me, can I, is there a way that I can transmute the energy of the kibble and with a blessing? And so the simple answer is yes, you can. However, because we are still biology and physiology, it's good to start putting some other fresh substances in there.
Mhm.
Like adding a little bit of fresh foods
Mhm.
intermittently. As little baby steps.
Yeah. Anything to raise the vibration.
Hmm.
Mhm. That's so true. Um, we were gonna talk about like sharing some personal examples of how energy has affected clients, ourselves, people we know, or just examples, just to give people some ideas that can be inspiring,
Yeah.
or just bring an awareness in some cases.
Yeah. Well, I remember this one case. Uh, working in the emergency room, there was this he was about 4 years old, Great Dane, beautiful, beautiful dog. And he came in because the person who brought him in was not the owner. It was sort of the pet sitter slash new owner.
Mm-hmm.
They brought the dog in because he wasn't eating. He wouldn't eat anything, and he just was lethargic and didn't want to really move. And they thought he was really sick. And when I got the story from the pet sitter about when this all started and a little bit of backstory history, he said, well, about 4 days ago, the dog was in the kitchen with the owner, and the owner died in front of him and was laying in the kitchen floor. He had a heart attack and he died.
Mm.
And this dog was witness to that. And um, and so as soon as he said that to me, I was like, oh, I was like, there's nothing wrong with this dog. He's really, really sad.
Mm-hmm.
He's
He's
devastated
leaving.
that the one that he loved just died in front of him, and all of a sudden he didn't have an understanding around that.
Yeah.
So I spoke to my staff and I said, if you guys are open for this, I would really like to try this, because I think the dog is devastatingly sad. And we I had them go in a circle around the dog. He's a big dog. He's a big Great Dane. So there was about 7 of us, and we went around the circle, and um, we held hands, and I asked everyone to just tell the dog that we're sorry for his loss, and we are here for him for support, and he's not alone, and it's going to be okay. It's just something really simple like that. And so we did that and silently, for a few minutes. And the dog was just sitting there with his head hung low, and you could tell he was really sad. And then after a few minutes, you start to see his body change. It was beautiful. He stood up taller, and he looked up and he looked around, and you could see his energy field just got lighter and brighter. And um, I felt that he got our message, um, and so I explained to the pet sitter what we did and what I was thinking, and to go home and feed him like a really yummy meal, cook something delicious, and then when I reached out to them the next day, they said he looked like remarkably better.
Mm.
Not 100%, but he had more energy. He seemed a little happier, and he was eating. And so
Yeah.
it's like, wow, that's, if we didn't address that on that level, and we did lab work and x-rays and all sorts of things, and then send them home with medications, and we that might have helped, but we would have missed this beautiful opportunity to really address, the heart of his problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it sounds like just y'all's intention of helping to raise his vibration and transmute some of that grief and sadness. It raised his vibration,
Yeah,
and he was able to let go of some of that. And it does make a huge difference. I mean,
it does.
we know how strong emotions can be,
Yeah,
and traumatic experiences when you see your beloved owner and you feel helpless and you can't do anything and you don't understand why he's not waking up and you don't know what's going on. And I mean, it's just, I think of all those pets that lose their elderly owners. They're separated. All the one minute everything's fine and normal, the next minute their person is going to a care home, or they're being, they pass away, and then who's going to take the dog, who's going to take the cats, and they go to a shelter, or they don't understand what's going on. They're just like, whoa, 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 what's happening? They're
right,
heartbroken. They don't understand. And I think if people would just stop and be aware, they're going through a very hard time.
right.
you
And
know?
sometimes it's as easy as just holding space,
Yeah.
and recognizing, acknowledging their journey, and to, let them know that you want to support them, because
Yeah.
their energy, they're balls of energy, and they don't have a lot of judgment and preconceived notions.
Hmm.
Sometimes they just are. And if you can just be that energetic support for them, it
Right.
can make a world of difference. Especially,
100%.
especially with all these animals that are so anxious, and they have all these past traumas. And
Hmm.
that's the issue about dog anxiety, cats anxiety. It's such a big conversation, and I feel that it goes in the wrong direction sometimes, when we start wanting to medicate these animals with antidepressants.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, what are we doing? I think we're just, that's not the solution.
Yeah.
It may make us feel better because we feel like we're doing something, but that's not the right thing.
100%. Especially when people will become aware that their own energy could be contributing to some of that behavior. I see that
Yeah,
a lot. Do you
yeah.
see that a lot?
Well, they say stress goes down the leash. And it
Point.
does. And so a lot of the dog trainers, they're already kind of aware of this, that when they go into a partnership with the client and the animal, they yeah, they're treating the dog, but they are always focusing on the client, and how they're,
Mhm.
and with their behavior, and teaching them behavior modifications, so
Yes.
that the animal is going to act differently.
Mhm.
And that's important. And that's where we touch upon, is to teach people how to go into that state of mind body coherence, so that you can radiate this field of calm out
Mhm.
to the animals. And it's also benefits you because it's healing in your own body.
Yes. Yes, that's so true. I was listening to a podcast today with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he was talking
Mhm.
about all of his. Did you see it, Lewis Herm? His new
Uh,
interview with today that dropped. Um, he was talking about all the studies they're showing with
oh yeah.
the whole the heart, mind, body coherence, and how it's affecting the microbiome, and how it's affecting immune cells, and how it's affecting all these like specific targeted diseases and stuff. And it's like mind blowing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So he came out with this movie called The Source. It's a
they
documentary.
showed the trailer. Yeah, I
Mhm.
haven't seen
Yeah,
it. I want to see it.
people should watch it. It's basically his years of research where he is showing people that, and this is an important concept, I think, because this is the first of this kind of research, right?
Yeah.
And I want to pretense this with indigenous cultures, and shamans and healers have been doing this for eons,
Hmm.
right? And we do this when we're in these meditative states and we're connecting to this field and we're changing our biology. And it's great that he's done all this work and research, but it saddens me in the same light to say that in order for us to believe that meditation and connecting with an outer source of us is valuable, we need to have a study, right? We don't need to have a study to know this, but
Hmm.
it helps, right? Because when people see things on a different level, they're
Hmm.
like, wow, this really works, I'm going to go meditate. you know you know
Right.
yeah, and he talks about how the act of, we go into that mind body coherence and your brain waves change, and when you're in a certain brain wave, say a gamma
Yeah.
wavelength, you are now connecting to that field of energy. It's sort of
Mhm.
like that dial up, you're in
Yes.
the same resonance. When
Mhm.
you're in that same resonance, then shift happens,
Yes.
and it changes your metabolites, it changes your mitochondria, it
Mhm.
changes your chemistry, right?
Yes.
You're and the question is, it's like his big question, which I think is a beautiful question. He's like, these people come into this workshop, and after a week long, event, doing all these meditations, 7 days later, some of them are completely changed.
Mhm.
They're walking when they were in a wheelchair. Their psoriasis is gone. Their cancer is gone.
Yeah.
They're these massive quick improvements. And the big question is, well, they didn't take a pill,
No.
didn't do anything, they didn't eat any, everyone was eating the same foods and the same this and the same that, the same sleeping habits. What was different? What was it that you were tapping into that made that change? And
Mhm.
that is the interface with that field,
Yeah.
quantum field of these virtual particles that are in and out of existence, and you're using that energy to change your biology. And the cool thing is that your biology knows exactly what to do with it.
Yes.
You don't even have to
Yes.
think about it.
No.
You just have to have the intention of healing,
Yes.
and then it just streams in and it creates it for you because it's that intelligent.
Yes. Yes. It's fascinating. It's I could listen to that all day because the more you listen to it, the more you repeat it, the more it sinks in. You're like, oh, and you hear it again and again, and you keep learning something different or really zoning in on something different each time you hear it that you can really take home. It is fascinating to know how innately intelligent the body is
Hmm.
when we put it in a certain state
Yeah.
that's in a level of balance that allows it to do what it needs to do to heal. And then we don't need the medication. We don't need the drugs. We don't need, all these extra exterior helpers, so to speak. You can just let the body do what it's designed to do.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
amazing.
in a day-to-day existence, not everybody is immersed in this week-long, you know
Yeah.
dive of a meditative experience that's guided. you know, and
Mhm.
so how to incorporate that into your daily life, you know,
Yeah,
it is,
takes practice.
it takes practice. And I think the important thing to know is that, for one, it's possible.
Yeah.
Healing happens, right? So if you know it's possible, then it's something that you know that you can achieve, because anyone can achieve it. There's nobody special out
Yep.
there. Everyone has the same ability to do so. And
Mhm.
but you take baby steps as well. Like if you're home, maybe spend, you know, 10, 15 minutes in a state of quiet meditation, you know, where you close off your world, you know, to all the senses. And you maybe put on some music that your mind can focus on, and do breathing techniques. And maybe at the end or towards the end, I'll share a little bit of a heart focused breathing, you
Yeah,
know,
that'd be awesome.
so that we can at least start that, and set an intention for healing, and
Mhm.
feel what that feels like, to as if it already happened.
Mhm.
You know, like if you have back problems, you can meditate on seeing yourself dancing, or rock climbing, or roller skating, or, you know, I don't know, whatever you like to do with that's very physical, and you're loving it, you know, and you feel, if you're on a bike, you know, you feel the breeze in your hair, and you feel
Yeah.
your legs moving, you know, like relive that experience as if it's already happened, like it's a memory,
Mhm.
you know, and then really love that. And if you sit with that, that's when you're going to start to connect, right? And
And
then,
mhm.
you know, when you're out of the meditation, then you can hydrate, you know, or there's lots of herbs that you could take, and that'll help calm the nervous system. And you know, if you know, teas and tinctures and all sorts of things, and good food, and, you know, on that level, just complete mind, body, spirit, you know, alignment.
Mhm. Yeah. One of the things that I remembered him talking about in that talk was the scientists that were trying to figure out how these people were having these amazing healings in just, a 7-day period. And one of the scientists was like, they're not the same person.
Yeah,
They have become a different person on the inside.
yeah,
And that's why their labs from before and after don't even look the same. They're like, what? How does this happen? It's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. Um, do you have any other stories that you would like to share?
um, yeah. I have this. Well, it's a dog story. I do have a cat story that actually came into my clinic the other day. I'll share that one because that was interesting.
Yeah.
It was a cat that was, this person just got it from the Humane Society, from the shelter,
Mhm.
and about like a week to about 10 days ago. And the cat was just, it didn't want to eat, you know, didn't want to eat. It didn't really want. It was hiding. It was elusive, and, you know, they thought it was sick. They've been to multiple veterinarians, and they're doing lab work and testing on the cat, and then they're giving him um, various forms of appetite stimulants, and it's you know, they're not really working. So by
Mhm.
the time the cat comes into the ER, it's been like a really long time since this cat's eaten, and she comes in. It wasn't my case. It was one of the other doctors that took the cat in, but she came back into the back holding this cat in her arms, and you could see the cat was just all tucked in there, and her
Mhm.
head was buried in her arm, and her paws were over her head, and it was like she was hiding.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then the story that we found out was that she was in a home, and the owner died,
Mm.
and there were other people in the house and the family members that didn't want the cat,
Mhm.
and they were just like, nope, 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 I don't want a cat, I don't want a cat, I don't want a cat, just we're going to give it away, right? And so then they sent it to the Humane Society, and this cat felt so sad.
Yeah.
She was like, you know, like you're just torn from your family and nobody wants you, right? So she
Mhm.
felt like she just needed to hide away and unloved, you know, that was
Yeah.
the essence. And so You know, I mentioned to them, I said, just from on the fly, I said, you know, maybe have her do some flower essences,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or, you know, Bach flower remedies that will help with that emotional, you know,
Loss.
trauma that she's had with
Mhm.
the loss. And, you know, and then obviously have a conversation with the cat and the new owner, and to say, okay, look, this is what we need to do. We need to acknowledge and honor and let her know that, you know, I may not be your original owner, but I'm going to love you, you know, and, you know, that kind of
Mhm.
thing. Build up the relationship that way and just start from there. It doesn't cost you anything to do that,
Right.
you know, and that's just do it. Have the conversation. You know, it's amazing how many people talk to their animals, but don't always talk to their animals. You know, so
So true. And I really feel like they understand more than we give them credit for, you know. If we're coming from a place of heartfelt love, they
yeah,
feel that vibration, you know. And I love using energy modalities like flower essences, like color, like
sound.
crystals, like sound, you know, all of those things are just awesome for healing. um, Even animal communication is so helpful for, you know, talking to a pet that's gone through something like that, to let them know this is what happened, and
Right.
that you are in your new forever home, and they're going to love you and take care of you, and we're going to get you through, and, you know, help you heal your heart and move forward. And it's just so powerful.
Yeah, because they're finally having a conversation with someone that's wanting to listen or can listen and wants to know.
Yeah,
You know, and they're grateful for that. You know,
they
like,
totally are.
you know, wait, I got to tell you everything. You know,
100%. It's so true. It's so true. Tell us your dog story, your other dog story.
oh, it was a dog that a little 3-year-old dog who came into my integrative practice, who was struggling with what mom said has chronic pancreatitis.
Mm,
And I'm like, that sounds like a odd diagnosis for a 3-year-old dog. And
mhm,
but I know how that the mindset goes, and so I said, well, um, let's let's do first. I wanted to do an ultrasound on the dog to make just to see what the pancreas looks like, and actually the pancreas looked pretty healthy looking. And so I told mom that, well, you know, his pancreas looks pretty good, so why don't let's try other things. Let's try changing the diet, right?
mhm,
We put him on diet and herbs and supplements, and so the dog was the problem with the dog was that it was vomiting. It
mm.
just would vomit a lot and do some sort of like prayer position stretching,
Yeah.
and like it was just uncomfortable. Uh, and the dog actually lost the mom lost her husband, and the dog was very bonded to the husband.
Mhm.
And interestingly, he died of a kidney disease, and the dog was actually sitting on his chest like as he was sick like the whole time. And
Wow.
when I ultrasounded the dog, interestingly enough, we also found that the dog had changes in her kidneys.
Mhm.
They weren't causing any effects of the kidneys, you know, but the changes were there. And I was like, oh, well, in my mind, that makes sense.
Mhm.
She was
Mhm.
so bonded to the husband, and he had kidney problems, so she kind of
Mirrored.
empathetically sort of took that on. You know,
Mhm.
and we can talk about that at another show, how our animals can take on those diseases.
Yeah.
But it, our therapies were working really well. But then mom would come back and say, you know, she's still intermittent vomiting, and I'm like, huh, I don't know why that is. It doesn't make sense that she should be like that. And so what's going on in your life?
Mhm.
We started
Mhm.
talking about her life, and now the dog was very invested in mom, and mom was grieving a lot, you know, for her the loss of her husband.
Yeah.
And she, in talking to me, she realized that the dog would start to vomit when she would start to cry. And
Mhm.
moment of deep grieving for the loss of her husband, then she would notice that her dog would vomit. And, you know, in Chinese medicine, the GI tract carries this sense of worry, you know,
Yeah.
and the dog was, you know, worried about mom, you know, being in
Mhm.
that state. So I counseled mom about, you know, different ways to, you know, maybe let go of grief. We did a little coherence techniques, and maybe not to grieve in front of the dog, and just shift things up and see how it worked out. And then I don't know, it's probably about 6 or 8 months later, I didn't hear from her. And then she comes back, and she wanted just to touch base with me. And I said, well, how is it going? And she says, it's great. It's great.
Mhm.
I'm feeling better. And when I shifted my levels of grieving, or healing through that, or not grieving in front of her, whatever changes they made, it made a huge impact. And so that was like the energetic icing on the cake that
Yes.
shifted this dog into wellness. And that was like 2 years ago, 2.5, almost 3 years ago now. And the dog is living her best life.
That
She's
that
like,
is, I mean, if people just really stopped and observed, and just like step back as if you are an observer of the situation and look at everything, you can start to kind of piece some things together. Maybe not everything. With practice, you can obviously get really good at this, but just making the connection between when that happened and when she's like the whole timing of everything, and start to go, I wonder why you're doing that now. And I
yeah.
have an interesting story. One of my friends who is really, she's a crystal educator and does a lot of rescue work and things like that. She is also an attorney. We did a show together last year, and she was describing how before, when she would come home from her lawyer job, that was all about like she works a lot with families who are going through abusive situations and pets in abusive situations, and so it's heavy work, right? So she would come home just you know with like layers of the weight of the world on her, and she would walk through the front door and one of her cats would just vomit.
That's
It
instant,
was
right? That's
like
like energy interface.
it was like she would describe it like when it finally dawned on me that I was bringing all of this like in a negative emotional wave through the front door, and it was just hitting my cat like a wave of energy, and he was just like, what, he was overwhelmed by the energy. It affected him like that. So she got a selenite wand, and she would wand herself before she walked in the front door to
Mm.
clear all the energy off of her. Cat never vomited again.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, it's quite an example, but it's
Yeah,
a powerful story of just to be mindful of how the energy that we're carrying with us
right.
affects everything in our environment. Even though we don't see it, we would see the effects of it. We may not may not connect the dots, right?
Right, right. And it allows us to really, like you said, to check in with ourselves,
Yes.
and allow our animals to be a mirror for us, to reflect, so what's going on with me that I need to address, you know?
Yeah,
And I think as soon as we start doing that, that's the one of the first steps.
absolutely.
And I think a lot of people, like, they know that. They know that. And they don't always want to look at that, but it might save you a lot of expensive trips to the vet.
It certainly can. It certainly can, especially, you as a vet, I'm sure you've seen this. You've seen the helicopter parent, pet parent, that is just like trying to micromanage every single symptom and then going from vet to vet to vet. And, it's just like, well, what can we try med? Can we try this med? Can we try the supplement? And it's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. And that person you can just tell they're so just wired all the time. They're overwhelmed with this anxiety of, I just got to help my pet and I'm just so worried. And, they're like a walking ball of negative energy. and,
Yeah,
then, and then you wonder why your pet is like having issues all the time. It's like, whoa, take a step back,
yeah.
deep breath, and how do you, have you had cases like that where you've had to just like deal with, like in a nice way, let's talk, how are you doing?
Yeah, well, in my world, it spans like two different people. I have the people that come in the emergency room that are
Mhm,
already in that heightened state of panic.
mhm.
right? Because something emergent has happened. There's a crisis. And so I get like there's them, but them in crisis.
Yes.
And so sometimes that kind of helicopter sort of circling energy is a little bit more focused in the crisis.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, I always will try to get them to just center themselves. And honestly, it's sometimes it's just me centering myself before I go into the room with them. And then when I walk in, there's this presence of this energy is calm.
Yeah.
And I just take a moment of pause, and I just, we'll breathe for a little bit, and you can see them just sink a little bit and change. And then when you give them a moment to listen, to be heard, then they'll start to open up, and then they become more
receptive.
Yeah, receptive to what's happening, and like I said, it's more of a crisis. But I do meet a lot of my integrative clients on my emergency service, and they end up, after they come out of the ER, now they come see me for a holistic appointment to enter into wellness.
Yes.
And sometimes you're like, oh my God, if I never even came in on the ER to find you, I would have not even known this.
Right. That's so amazing. And it's so cool how you're able to cross over and touch lives, in that way that maybe you would never have crossed paths, if you hadn't been working there that day. I think that's really cool. But I don't think that's by accident. I think
it's really not. I mean, I meet people that are just, meant to come in that day. And they always say that. It's like, oh my God, I knew there was a reason, and they thank you for having bloody diarrhea. It was a good day to do that.
Yes, at this time, at this place right now. It's so true. Here's another example. I know people can probably relate to this, but years ago, I had a cat named Hershey. He was my soul cat. And he was so connected to me. And whenever my ex and I would have heated discussions, arguments, whatever it might be, he would sit there and he would cry, and he would get louder and louder, and he would be like looking at us, especially him, because he was very loud, my ex. And so he would just get louder and louder and louder because the energy was so awful, right? And he was just trying to get our attention and go, stop, stop, it's too much, it's not good. But I didn't understand way back then why he was so upset and crying at us. But it was the energy. It was absolutely, because the minute we stopped, he stopped.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And then, I mean, there's so many stories, but I think it's just really about being aware. It's starting with that. Let's be aware of our thoughts, aware of our feelings, aware of our emotions. And when we are not in a good headspace or a very calm space, maybe it's not a good time to be around our animals. Maybe we need to go outside and be in nature, or just have some time alone, so that we don't start to put that frequency into their field, because it will affect them. We're so connected.
Well, maybe now's a good time to just demonstrate what it looks like to just have a heart-focused breathing.
No, I think that's great. Let's do it.
And it's super simple. It's, take a quiet moment, a pause, and you center your attention to your heart space. And sometimes putting your hand on your heart will allow you to focus the attention there, because we know that where we touch our bodies is where our attention goes. So that's and then you just drop your mind into the heart, and then you just breathe a little slower and deeper than you normally would. It could be 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. It could be, 4 in, 6 out. We know that this 10-second breath rhythm actually allows you to breathe 6 breaths in a minute, which immediately dials down your sympathetic nervous system and upregulates your parasympathetic nervous system of relaxation and sort of rest and digest, that whole vagal tone, right? And so just doing that, when you do that heart focused breathing, if you do that for 1 minute, just 1 minute, you're going to feel very different. And if you remember to do that intermittently throughout your day, or before you walk into the office, or before you walk home, while you're in your, to shift into that heart focused breathing, you're going to feel different, and then you're going to be able to go into your environment or the situation that you're in.
Yep.
So that's heart focused breathing.
I love that. Can we do a round together for everybody who's watching?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's practice so we get, we have actually something to take with us.
Yeah, so you can close your eyes if you'd like, or you can keep your eyes open. Then we're going to put our hands on our hearts, center our attention to our heart space. And, as you are focusing on your heart space, allow your breath to slow down, breathing a little bit deeper and slower than you normally would. And we'll do 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm not going to count anymore. I'm just going to let you breathe at your own pace. And as you're in your heart space and you're doing this breathing, try to relive an emotion of joy, appreciation, gratitude, love, care. Think of a moment in time where you felt awesome or inspired, and try to relive that moment and that memory. Think about what it smelled like, the sounds that you heard, the weather, the sun shining, the water. And as you relive that experience, feel what it feels to do that all over again. We'll do this for one more breath. After you open your eyes and come back and just check in with yourself, and how do you feel?
Very relaxed. Yeah, it's awesome.
You feel calm or
all the good endorphins just kind of flowing and just, making you feel good. calm, relaxed, happy, grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we bring in that elevated emotion to the experience, that's where the body starts to shift into coherence.
Yes.
It's that emotion driven aspect, and to practice, and that's practice. That takes practice, and then
Mhm.
once you do that enough, you start to rewire your physiology, and you
Yes.
change your brain chemistry, and you change the pathways, and you reset the baseline or the threshold for the stress response. Like this whole change happens.
Hmm. I love what you said. We have to get out of our head and drop into our heart, and feeling that emotional connection to whatever it is we're thinking about is what activates. It's like the secret sauce, right?
Hmm.
Secret sauce. Oh my goodness. Um, well, gosh, this has been so awesome. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up? Just,
I think that this is a conversation that we're going to have again
mhm.
in different ways. If there are comments out there or questions that people have that they want to hear about, we could do more deep dives into certain topics.
Yeah.
But really, it boils down to the basics of that, knowing that it's possible. Healing happens. We are built for wellness. We're built for healing.
Hmm.
We just are. Our body wants to heal. If you cut your finger, it will spend a lot of energy trying to heal that wound
Hmm.
innately,
Yep.
and you don't have to tell it how to do it. It will do it. You just have to kind of help it,
Yep.
along, like put a band-aid on it, keep it clean.
Yeah.
Don't pick at it, just let it do its thing.
Hmm.
So that's
Hmm.
just like everything in our bodies is like that. So one, know that it's wellness is a choice. It's a
Hmm.
journey. It's not a quick fix, but it's worth the effort.
Yes. And tell people where they can find you. And I think you also wanted to point people to certain a questionnaire on your website or quiz.
Oh yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. If they want to find more information about me and what I do in my services, you can go to drdrbarriesands.com. And also, I'd appreciate anyone watching this. I am involved in this um, research about the biofield physiology and how our energies affect the human animal bond.
Mm,
And so there's a survey on my website that talks about the energetics of the human animal experience. It's a really quick 1 minute survey, and you get a free PDF download on the top 10 ways to create optimum wellness for you and your pet. As a thank you for taking the survey. So, the more information I get, the better it will be for this research. So, I thank you in advance.
I'm going to put your website in the show notes here, or the comments, but I'll also drop it in the show notes. And I wanted to share, Janae says, my cat just came and laid on me right on my heart space. She
Oh,
goes, oh, I love, love, love that.
I love
So many great comments. I just want to share. Moon Mojo Feline says, you talked about this breathing technique during Naturally Cuts conference, and I started doing it in between classes at school, and my
Oh,
days became less stress free for the most part. LOL.
awesome. Yay.
Adrian says, so good. And Barbara says, powerful presentation. Thank you. Sandy still says, thank you both. Let's see who else. Oh, I thought I missed one. Oh, yes, yes. Moon Mojo Feline says this live did not disappoint. Thank you both for an amazing hour. And Carla says, thank you so much. I've learned so much, and I'll be using the heart focused breathing in my life. Yay! That's
Yay.
awesome.
Yeah, it's addictive. Just let you know, it's an
Yeah.
addictive.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And we are going to actually do a show for the radio show in July. So you can listen to us dive again on. We're going to take another rabbit trail off of this whole topic for that show. And then we'll probably do one in August. We're just going to see what the schedule looks like. But drop comments. Let us know if there's specific areas of
Mhm.
energy, studies or topics that you are interested in, so we can make sure that we can address those in the future. And if you have any questions, drop them into the show notes. Reach out to Dr. Barrie through her website or email me at pam@perfectlyholistic.com. And thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we will see you next time. So
Yeah, thank you.
have a great evening,
It's a
everyone.
pleasure.